Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradari Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yamuna Tiravanachari Yamuna Tiravanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradari Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yamuna Tiravanachari Yamuna Tiravanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Rama Rama. Jaya Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada, Jaya Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada, Jaya Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada. Gurudev, 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 Jaya Jaya Gurudev, 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 Jaya Jaya Gurudev. Jaya Vishnupad Paramahamsa, Pravakacharya Stata, His Divine Grace, Abhay Charanavinda Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, ISKCON Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, Nantakoti Vaishnavrinda Ki Jai, Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai, Premse Kaho Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai, Sri Sri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shamakunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai, Shri Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai, Shri Mayapur Dham Ki Jai, Shri Ganga Mai Ki Jai, Shri Jamuna Mai Ki Jai, Shri Bhakti Devi Ki Jai, Shri Tulsi Maharani Ki Jai, Samaveda Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories, all glories, all glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. Before we read from the Srimad Bhagavatam, today's the appearance day of Jagadish Pandit, and just wanted to read about how he is very prominent in Lord Chaitanya's beautiful Leela when he was young. Oh, just one. It's okay. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda. Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. So we know when Lord Chaitanya was very young, he was a baby, he would cry and cry and cry and cry until everyone chanted Hare Krishna. That was his trick to have everybody chant Hare Krishna. So usually when everyone would chant Hare Krishna, he would stop crying. He would just dance or be peaceful. But one day he wouldn't stop crying, even though everyone was chanting Hare Krishna. And then he said, I'm not going to stop until I get the foodstuffs from the two Brahmins, Jagadish and Hiranya Pandit. So in the Adi Leela, pretending to be sick, the Lord asked some food from the house of Hiranya and Jagadish on the Ekadasi day. And being a baby, he didn't ostensibly know that it was Ekadasi. So in the Chaitanya Bhagavat, Adi Kanda, chapter 6, fully describes the Lord's accepting Vishnu Prasadam on the Ekadasi day at the house of Jagadish and Hiranya. Prabhupada states, regular prasadam is offered to Lord Vishnu on Ekadasi because although fasting is recommended for devotees, it is not recommended for Lord Vishnu. Once on Ekadasi, in the house of Jagadish and Haranya Pandit, there were arrangements for preparing special prasadam for Lord Vishnu, and Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu asked his father to go there to ask for the prasadam because he was feeling a little sick. The house of Jagadish and Haranya Pandit was situated about 2 miles from the house of Jagannath Mishra, so he knew them a little bit. They were in the village. Therefore, when Jagannath Mishra, on the request of his beloved son, came to ask Jagadish and Haranya for prasadam, they were a little astonished. How could the boy understand that special prasadam was being prepared for Lord Vishnu? They immediately concluded that Nimai must have some supernatural mystic power. So they played a little bit of a part in that, and I just wanted to read quickly from the Chaitanya Bhagavat, because it gives a little bit more detail. Jagadish and Haranya are both great devotees, and I desire something from them. Today is Ekadasi, and they are both fasting, but they have prepared varieties of foodstuffs for Lord Vishnu. If I could eat their offering, I will be cured, and I will be able to walk. So that's what he told his dad. Hearing this impossible proposal, Mother Sachi lamented, "You are requesting something that is not sanctioned in the Vedas or in ordinary dealings." Everyone laughed on hearing the child's demand, and they said, all right, we'll give it to you, but please stop crying." Those 2 brahmanas were great Vaishnavas and dearest friends of Jagannath Mishra. And when those 2 first-class brahmanas heard the child's request, they became fully satisfied. The 2 brahmanas exclaimed, "This is an amazing demand. We have never heard of such an intelligent child. How did he know that today is Ekadasi? How did he know that we have prepared all kinds of foodstuffs for the Lord? We can understand that since this child is so attractive, Gopal must have manifested in his body." Thinking like this, the 2 brahmanas brought the various offerings and happily gave them to Nimai. Then they said, "Dear child, please eat these foodstuffs. Our desire is to serve Krishna. Our desire to serve Krishna is fulfilled today." And it said in the, I believe it was, let me get back to my little notes here. He was actually in Krishna Lila as a dancer. Now I can't find where I saw, but he was in Krishna Lila as well, Jagadish Pandit, so he was an intimate associate of Lord Krishna. So today's his appearance day. And now we'll go on to the Srimad Bhagavatam. This is text 10, chapter 49. Canto 10, chapter 49, text 22. Adharmo pachitam vitam harantyan yel pamedasa sambojani apadeshar Jalaniva jalaukasa Adharmo pachitam vitam Harantyan yel padmedasha Sambojani apadeshar Jalaniva jalaukasa Adharmo pachitam vitam Harantyan yel pamedasha Sambojani apadeshar Jalaniva jalaukasha. Dharmo pachitam vitam Harantyan yel pamedasha Sambojani apadeshar Jalaniva jalaukasha. Adharmo pachitam vitam Harantyalpa maledasha Jalani Vadilakasha Adharmo Pachitam Vitam Arantyalva Palmedasa Lambojaniya Badeshire Jalaniva Jalaukasha Adharma by irreligious means. Upachitam gathered. Vitam wealth. Haranti steal. Anye other persons. Alpa medasha of one who is unintelligent. Sambojaniya as requiring support. Apadeshai by the false designations. Jalani water. Eva as. Jala okasa of a resident of the water. Translation: in the guise of dear dependence, strangers steal the sinfully acquired wealth of a foolish man, just as the offspring of a fish drink up the water that sustains the fish. Please repeat: in the guise of dear dependence, strangers steal the sinfully acquired wealth of a foolish man, just as the offspring of a fish drink up the water that sustains the fish. Purport. Ordinary people feel they cannot live without their wealth, although their possession of it is circumstantial and temporary. Just as wealth gives life to an ordinary man, water gives life to a fish. One's dear dependents, however, steal one's wealth, just as a fish's offspring drink up the water, sustaining the fish. In the words of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, this world is a weird abode. Omakena Tanamandhyasya Gnanjana Shalakaya Chakshuru Minatamyena Tasmai Sri Gunave Namaha Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimati Vir Krishnadas Goswami Nitinamine Namaham Sanekashaya Prabhupada Prayate Surita Sudinastam Vamtashavati Nivadine. So, just wanted to read the purports of the Acharyas. This is very visually impactful on the understanding of dependence and offspring of a person. And Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur states, when a son living with his father steals his hard-earned money, he should be known as an enemy with the name of a son. They steal the wealth of the foolish father using the pretext that it is the father's duty to support them, sambojaniya, just as numerous offspring of the fish end up contaminating the very water which gives life to the fish. And Jiva Goswami states, others, such as sons, steal the wealth one has personally earned with labor by forbidden actions or not following one's swadharma, because though one knows they are stealing, one has no ability to decide what to do. In a temporary body of water, the small fish makes the water dirty and foul-smelling and smaller in quantity because of overcrowding. Thus, the big fish dies first. So he really breaks it down to give the visual of what happens there. And so in this particular little pastime, Akrura, he's there, he's observing, and, in Krishna's order to go and check it out, see what's going on. And he's playing a little bit of, I feel like he's playing a little bit of a Narada Muni role here, trying to speak with the dear king who, as we've read, is unnaturally attached to his sons, to the extent of now it's going to pretty much be the death of him, right? He's excluding the Pandava, the Pandus, from the rest of the lot, and he's unable to distinguish, as a righteous king should. I mean, we've heard so much about that in the last 24 or 48 hours when we're studying the pastimes and the life of Lord Ramachandra, the perfect king. Of course, he's the perfect example because it's Krishna himself, but, there's so many lessons and, pastimes that we can understand. He's always to be trusted because he's always doing the right thing in all circumstances. He has really, a full magnanimity, purity, intelligence, and the rest. Whereas on the other side of the spectrum, Dhritarashtra is a little bit clouded in his judgment. He's very attached to, some living entities that happen to be in his, purview at that time, who are his sons. And, Akrura is trying to churn that up for him. He's trying to actually give him the best advice. And this is a little bit of a, it's a powerful visual if you think about that. The fish in the pond or the puddle probably, and they have offspring, and, everybody's got to live. Everybody's got to sort of coexist in that little bubble or that little life. And Dhritarashtra is not really seeing the big picture of that. He can't get over that hump to understand, what's right, what's wrong, like that. So Akrura, he's trying to help him. He actually is really trying to help him. He's, I don't feel like he's being too harsh, but he's just being really pointed in his assessment of the situation. And he gives several different citations, and I was actually wanting to also read chapter 23, because this is actually Akrura sort of summarizing what he's been saying to Dhritarashtra in many different ways, and hoping that Dhritarashtra sees his way clear, because he wants a peaceful resolution. He wants to see it through and give good advice, and he's the most expert strategist. He's very, he understands what Krishna wants, being his 100% devoted to Krishna. So he's actually trying to be helpful in this instance. But unfortunately, as we'll find out, it falls on deaf ears. This is the lead into the Bhagavad Gita. So I'm going to just read text 23 to kind of giving that snapshot. Pushnati anadharmena swabudhya tamapanditam te kritartam prahinvanti pranaraya sutadaya. A fool indulges in sin to maintain his life, wealth, and children and other relatives, for he thinks, these are mine. So now he's really getting into, he was using kind of aphorisms before, but now he's saying, these are mine. In the end, however, these very things all abandon him, leaving him frustrated. Purport. In these verses, Akrura is giving rather frank advice to Dhritarashtra. Those who know the story of the Mahabharata will realize how relevant and prophetic these instructions are, and how much Dhritarashtra suffered for not accepting them. Although one tenaciously clings to his property, in the end all is lost, and the blundering soul is swept away by the wheel of birth and death. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur states, life, wealth, raya, and sons, which the fool maintains by sinful actions thinking that they are his, abandon that fool who had not attained his desires. Jiva Goswami states, He tries to increase life, wealth, and sons, but cannot do so. They leave him. And Sanatana Goswami adds, in order to maintain his life, he does not follow the rules and prohibitions. Therefore, he is a fool. Life, wealth, and relatives, as well as friends and servants, adaya, reject him. The list is in order to increasing importance for non-rejection. Life rejects him when he dies. Though living, wealth leaves him, and conscious beings like children, they give him up without regard for dharma. So, we're sort of on the outside looking in. We can see the folly of Dhritarashtra for doing all these things, and we can understand Akrura is trying to give good advice. It's falling on deaf ears. And as we read through this pastime and we ponder Ram Raj, we ponder the glory of Lord Ramachandra and how he ruled his kingdom, being inclusive of everyone, even a dog, listening to a dog, or whoever wanted to speak with him. He was the most magnanimous, 100% inclusive. We can understand that Dhritarashtra wasn't really doing things in the best interest of his people, and nor himself, nor in the context of just the bigger picture and how he can best serve Krishna, because he wasn't thinking that. He had his own self-interests in mind. And, of course, Lord Ramachandra is Krishna, but we've heard of many other pious kings throughout the Bhagavatam who, they understand that Krishna's supreme controller and they are not, so they're able to rule their subjects or rule all the residents of the kingdom in such a way to try to help them realize that position too. He's fully aware, because if someone's at that position of king, and Dhritarashtra usurped the position, so he's sort of not counted in this, but if someone is in that position of king or leader or ruler or whatever, should be the most magnanimous, actually, and it kind of can't be helped, because if there's only that desire to please Krishna, and particularly in our case, I don't have that much experience in, ruling the world yet, but, we only have the experience of pleasing Radha Golokananda, and, in their abode, trying to engage everybody, to actually serve them 100% capacity, 100% of the time, try to move them a little bit forward in their devotional service so they can, be independently thoughtful to make that spiritual advancement. Because generally the mass doesn't know what's right from wrong. That's why there's somebody that's a leader, and then there's those people who look up to the leader to give them good advice to proceed on that path. And unfortunately, Dhritarashtra wasn't interested in, helping everyone be a little bit more Krishna conscious. He was only interested in his own, his own thing, his own desires, his own plan, And we can understand, those of us who have been practicing Bhakti Yoga for even a very short time, that Krishna has his plans, we have our plans, and a lot of times they don't really meet. They can't really. And then you think, okay, there's no way I'm going to get past Krishna's plan, so I'd better just give up my plan. And God bless Akrura for trying to help Dhritarashtra understand that he should just give up that plan. He should give up those attachments. And I don't want to, belabor the point, because he's being pretty blunt here as far as familial attachments particularly. They're a little bit dangerous, attachments to the fallible soldiers. They're a little bit, it's a gamble. It's a gamble when you place a lot of trust and, all of your energy and time and love into, a person that everybody has their own desires, so you can't really know 100% of the time how that's going to affect, as a leader or a ruler, just like in the story that we heard last night about Lord Ramachandra, there's a Brahmana there's a Brahmana in his kingdom beating a dog. I mean, that in and of itself sounds a little incongruous. I mean, I can't imagine in Lord Ramachandra's, Ayodhya, Ram Raj, that, there'd be that kind of mentality. But, it was for a simple reason. It was just because he was hungry. This Brahmana was doing whatever he was doing, he was acting out. And, there's just that momentary lapse of reason and judgment that, we must always kind of, at least I'm always praying that I'll overcome or avoid, or, if I get something in the head that doesn't sound quite right, we have, of course, the Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra. We're very fortunate in that way. The sons of Dhritarashtra, they were just doing their things, and so was Dhritarashtra. They weren't taking good advice. They weren't listening to others. They weren't, hearing, this is all a pastime, but, they weren't hearing Chaitya Guru, even. They weren't, listening to themselves, so they can understand if what they're doing is favorable to Krishna consciousness or unfavorable to Krishna consciousness. And as we, go through our practices and we read about these things, it's very helpful to understand what not to do. And with regard to this particular, Akrura is just going at it from all different directions. Your familial attachment isn't good for the kingdom. It's not good for you. It's not good for them. He's going at it from all different directions to try to convey this message. But Dhritarashtra just, he doesn't want to hear it. And that's what we have to guard against, is not hearing good advice. Sometimes we don't want to hear the good advice, right? We want to hear what we think that we've already worked out in our heads that seems like it's good. But, advice I've found or messages or direction sometimes comes through very unlikely circumstances or through very unlikely individuals, because Krishna is speaking through everyone as his instrument, especially for those of us practicing Bhakti Yoga. And I'm going to say even not in Bhakti Yoga. Sometimes maybe you've had the experience where you're speaking to just a random person and they'll blurt something out that seems kind of not really related, but it's completely relevant to something you've been thinking or feeling or questioning. And, it's so incongruous that I always think, wow, is this person, where did this come from? How did this come about? And it's answering a question that I was thinking about or some way to proceed. So Krishna just ends up speaking through whoever he can find that you'll hear. Sometimes familiarity breeds contempt, and in this case, most likely, I'm not going to say, in all instances, but, Akrura's, he's very nice, he's a very straightforward, calm, peaceful person. He seems very self-satisfied. He's Krishna's, friend, and he has a likeness of Krishna. And, he's very beautiful, and he has all the godly qualities. So, it can be easy to turn off that, it's not so imperative. And I've actually found sometimes if someone really needs kind of an intervention, they don't, listening to a reasonable advice in a nice way doesn't really work. You know, sometimes it has to be like given a little bit more forcefully or impactfully, and like Akrura is doing with this, with the fish, you know, and with everybody leaving. You know, then he just goes on to say, everybody will leave you. Why are you doing what you're doing? All of this is temporary. Everyone's going to leave you, and you're going about it through, you know, the wrong means to gain a result. And also, I'll say, when he's talking about a fool indulging in sin to maintain his life, and the son stealing ill-gotten wealth, you know, that was directly for Dhritarashtra. You know, like in a Krishna conscious sort of family unit, everybody's working together for the pleasure of the Lord. So there's not really anything ill-gotten or, you know, forbidden. It's all being dovetailed. You know, Krishna's giving us so much facility to dovetail in his service. But Akrura clearly sees that, you know, nothing that Dhritarashtra is doing is going into the service of the Lord. He's trying his best to be oppositional and not really follow that. Probably follow his heart, follow good advice, follow, you know, the dharma of a king, follow all these injunctions, but he's just ignoring. So what can be done? If someone wants to ignore good advice, what can be done, you know? And a little bit further on, Akrura, you know, he tries to speak a little bit stronger and stronger, but as we know, it falls on deaf ears. So I guess when I was reading this and just reflecting, you know, about everything, Krishna really, he's given us 2 ears and 1 mouth, and the 2 ears are for listening. You know, we just have to hear more, you know, not in our minds, not hear our minds, not hear, you know, we have to hear from authorized sources, we have to hear from Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra, we have to hear from, you know, just hear from when Krishna actually, and sometimes randomly, puts something in our face to hear and to take in and understand, so we can actually do the right thing, always do the right thing. Because, you know, it's easy. It's so easy in this world to just not do the right thing. You know, there's so many forces that are aligning to, you know, including our own mind, to have us, you know, divert our attention from what's real and what, you know, what direction to go in. So let's not be like Dhritarashtra and just continue on our path because, you know, it's giving us pleasure, or, you know, I'm sure in his case, you know, he cared about his sons to a gross degree, unnatural, I think I read somewhere. And, you know, as Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, even though we know these things, or even though he knew these things, it's a weird abode. Everything's upside down, you know. We, you know, left is right and right is left sometimes. We're spinning. We don't know occasionally how to proceed, but, you know, good advice is always there if we want it. It's always around. For us as Bhakti Yoga practitioners, you know, we must be really grateful that we have that huge boon to have that Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra to always refer to on a day-to-day basis. You know, very fortunate in that way. So, any comments or questions or corrections? Aye. Yes. No, but he was like effulgent, and he was much more like, you can. I feel like you can see who's really dharmic and who's adharmic. As far as effulgence, and yeah, and he took his training directly from Krishna, or took Krishna's cues, I guess I'll say. He was doing whatever was asked, but he's, yeah, not his bodily hue, but just his godliness, his magnanimity. He was, trying very hard to think about what would Krishna want, and in that way he was adhering to his, his tight sort of circle of advisors or helpers or instruments, I guess. And he had learned a lot of Akrura. I feel like Akrura learned a lot of things after taking that bath in the water and seeing everything, and then he was immediately on a higher level of realization about his relationship with Krishna, and wanting him to come to his house and serve him and all the things. So he was, he was enamored. He was completely sold out. I guess that's, he was he was an associate in that way, where he was able to know his mood and his feelings, and his goal. Yes. Yeah. Oh, I mean, it's not stopping anything. I feel like it's, Krishna put us in this time and place, and then we have some close personalities that we're having to be, help them in their journey somehow, right? But, we can't be like too emotionally invested in that. Well, helping, yeah, but not too emotionally invested in their existing, and particularly if if they're doing things that aren't really aligned with what we want to do for Krishna, just feel like, okay, well, they're flying their own plane, but I'll help them when they can, right, when they're ready. So yeah.
Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Enam Kanvandam Maravindadalaya Taksham Varhavatam Samasitam Buddhasundarangam Kandar Bhagom Vidamaniya Vishesha Shobham Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Angani Asa Sakalem Priya Priti Manti Vasyan Dipan Jayanti Chiram Naganti Ananda Chinmaya Sadhu Jala Vigrahasya Govindam Adi Purusham Amaham Bhajami Govindam Adi Purusham Amaham Bhajami Govindam Adi Purusham Namaham Bhajami Govindam Adi Purusham.
Thank you. Namaham Bhajami. Namaham Vishnu Pataya Krishna Prastaya Motale Shrimate Bhaktivedanta Namanichi Namane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Vacha Nagini Visesha Shunyavadi Matsya Jagati Satarane Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadada Siva Sati Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadada Siva Sati Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadada Siva Sati Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadada Siva Sati Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Jaya Ram, Goloka Nana, Goloka Nana, Ragate. Nayarat, Goloka Nana, Goloka Nana, Ragate. Nayarat, hey, Nade, Rade, Nayarate. Narate, Jayarade, Jayarane, Jayarate, Jayaragade, Jayarade, Jayasri Ragad, hey, Jai Om Vishnupad, Paramahansa, Parvacharya.
Darpanamarjanam Bhavamahadavagni Nirvapanam Shreya Kairavya Chandrika Vitaranam Vijavadu Jivanam Anandar Buddhi Varnanam Pratimanam Purnamrita Swadanam Sarvatma Snapanam Param Vijayate Sarva Shaktis Tatra Pitani Amita Smaranena Kala Etadrishita Vakripa Bhagavan Mamapi Dordai